Have you ever stopped to think why certain things feel wrong, no matter where you are? Why are lying, stealing, or cheating actions that arouse universal discomfort, even across cultures and times? There is something in us that seems to recognize a kind of invisible code, an unwritten law that goes beyond the rules imposed by society. But where does this sense of right and wrong come from? Is it simply a product of evolution and culture, or is there something deeper, more universal, at play? C.S. Lewis, the brilliant author of the Chronicles of Narnia, addressed this question in one of his most famous works, Mere Christianity. For him, this feeling is not a coincidence, nor an accident of evolution. On the contrary, he believed that this universal morality, which seems to be present in all of us, points to something greater, a moral law inscribed in the very essence of humanity. But what exactly is this moral law? How does it work? And what does it tell us about the universe and the purpose of life? In this video, we'll dive deep into C.S. Lewis's ideas, explore the reasoning behind this universal morality, and question how it can transform the way we see the world, people, and even ourselves. Get ready for a journey of reflections that may change the way you understand morality, existence, and perhaps the very meaning of being human. C.S. Lewis believed that despite the diversity of customs, traditions, and legal codes across cultures, there is something common to all human beings, an innate sense of right and wrong. He called this the moral law or law of human nature. For Lewis, this law is not like physical laws, such as gravity, that operate inescapably. Rather, it is a standard of behavior that everyone recognizes, even if they sometimes choose not to follow it. For example, imagine two people arguing. Often, one of them will say something like, asterisk, that's not fair. Asterisk or asterisk, you promised you would do that. Star. This appeal to fairness or promise suggests that both people understand, or at least recognize, a shared moral standard. This happens not because people have been taught to act this way, but because they feel, deep down, that certain behaviors are right and others are wrong. Lewis observed that, regardless of the time or place, even with superficial differences, civilizations agree on basic principles: courage is admirable, betrayal is despicable, and justice is something to be sought. He argues that this consistency points to a universal truth: there is a moral compass common to all of us. What is fascinating is that this moral law seems to transcend cultural norms and even individual interests, suggesting that it is not something we create but something we discover, a larger pattern that guides us. For Lewis, this idea is one of the strongest indications that there is a creator or intelligence behind the universe, because only something greater than humanity could be the source of this universal morality. This reflection is a starting point for exploring deeper questions about the purpose of life and the role that morality plays in our existence. Is morality something we construct, or are we just discovering something that has always been there? This is a question that shakes the foundations of what we understand about ourselves and the world. Is morality, this sense of right and wrong, simply a product of our social conventions, something we have constructed throughout history to better live in society? Or is it like a law of nature, something we did not invent but that is simply there, waiting to be discovered, like gravity or numbers? If morality is constructed, then it can be as malleable as fashion trends or rules of etiquette, changing according to our needs. But if it is discovered, it means that there is something greater than us, something that does not depend on our opinions or the time in which we live. In this case, morality would not be just a convenience, but a fundamental truth that governs not only our actions, but our very essence. What do you think? Are we making up the rules as we go along, or are we just figuring out something eternal that has always been there for us? Let us know in the comments. For C.S. Lewis, God is the central key to the teachings of the moral law. He argues that the universal morality we all perceive, this innate sense of right and wrong, is not something we create, but evidence of the existence of a creator. According to him, the moral law is like a message engraved on our hearts, a reflection of the divine mind in our conscience. Lewis explains that the moral law points to God in two main ways. 1. The origin of the moral law. The existence of a universal moral standard suggests that there is something or someone outside of us who has established that standard. For Lewis, this cannot be attributed to evolution or society alone, because our sense of right and wrong often leads us to act against our own interests or instincts. He argues that this moral compass comes from God, who has implanted in us a conscience that reflects His character. 2. The connection to divine purpose. The moral law not only points to God, but also reveals something about Him. If the moral law calls us to justice, goodness, and truth, then God, as the source of that law, must be perfectly just, good, and true. This means that morality is not just a set of rules, it is a glimpse into God's character and an invitation to draw closer to Him. Finally, Lewis concludes that the moral law also shows us our need for God. Although we recognize good and evil, we often fail to live up to that standard. This failure, he says, leads us to seek reconciliation and redemption, something that is only fully found in God. It is at this point that Lewis's message connects universal morality to the heart of Christianity. God not only gives the moral standard, but also offers the solution to our shortcomings through Jesus Christ. For Lewis, then, God is not only the author of the moral law, but also the ultimate destination for those who desire to understand and live by it. When we reflect on C.S. Lewis's idea of universal morality, we realize that it is not just a philosophical curiosity or a theological viewpoint. It is an invitation to examine deeply who we are, why we exist, and what the ultimate purpose of our lives is. This moral law that seems to be engraved on our hearts transcends cultures, times, and circumstances. It speaks of something greater than ourselves, something that transcends our opinions or momentary desires. If the moral law is real, as Lewis argues, it forces us to confront fundamental questions. Who wrote this law on our hearts? Why do we feel so uncomfortable when we fail to live up to it? And how can we live in harmony with this standard that often seems so elusive? For Lewis, the answers to these questions point directly to God. He is not only the source of this morality, but also the guide who helps us understand it and the Savior who rescues us from our failures. This reflection also shows us how deeply morality is connected to our human experience. Even when we try to escape it, justifying our mistakes or denying its existence, it persists, calling us back to what is good, just, and true. It is as if there were a silent voice within us, inviting us to be more than we are, to live a life that reflects something greater than ourselves. And here is the most transformative point of Lewis's thinking. The moral law is not just a burden or an unattainable standard. It is a sign, a marker that points to God and the purpose of our existence. It is not just about following rules, but about discovering a relationship with the author of those rules, who not only demands justice but offers love, forgiveness, and grace. Therefore, universal morality is not a coincidence or an arbitrary human construct. It is proof that we are not alone, that there is a Creator who not only gave us life, but gave us a compass to live it fully. Accepting this invitation to know and follow this God is, perhaps, the greatest journey we can undertake. And now the question remains with you: what does this moral law mean for your life? Is it an echo of something greater, something divine? Or is it just another mystery of human existence? In any case, reflecting on it has the power to transform not only our view of the world, but also the way we choose to live within it. If you like this idea, leave your comment. Do you think there is a universal morality? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.